This is episode 870 of the Wrestling Observer Podcast, and this is King of Podcasts here with you, here to go ahead and recap AEW AllIn, which I was doing Uber deliveries throughout the day, and I was watching the whole thing, where I didn't do any actual rides with passengers in the car, but I watched the whole damn thing on my phone all the way through, and, made money while I was watching, instead of the other way around, right? So anyway, I enjoyed what we saw tonight. It's one of those things where I still wish I could watch in the movie theater, but that's okay. A lot of title changes tonight. Some really great surprises tonight. There's a lot to go ahead and unpack on all that they did tonight. And for me, I know that there's a lot of WWE fans that will listen to this program, and they have their issues with AEW on a regular basis. Listen, the TV product on their end also can be substandard. Listen, there are some weeks where I'm just not really paying attention that much to Collision or Rampage. And Dynamite I am, because there is a lot going on with that show, because one of the things they will do for the most part on those programs is that they are building up towards pay-per-views, just like WWE is. But the thing is that they do have something about where their storylines feel like they have a little more depth. Their characters obviously have something more to add. Like, we're emotionally invested. And I keep saying that a lot when it comes to hoping what would WWE be doing on a regular basis for us. And that's a struggle right now, because some of the stars they bring on board don't really do that. The other thing that there's a lot of complaints about is the use of the stars that are brought in on a regular basis, and when they are former WWE standouts and they're brought over to AEW, how some are going to get used differently than others, because of how they might be recognized or remembered, or it can be a number of reasons why Tony Khan chooses to go ahead and book certain stars the way he does. But we looked at what they did tonight, and when it comes to Bryan Danielson, for him, it's a matter of, I'll say this, I think that the way he got his title win tonight versus Swerve Strickland in front of Wembley Stadium tonight, to me, that's a much more interesting and impressionable win than what he did at WrestleMania, because of the whole deal of having to win the triple threat to get into the match in the first place. He doesn't have to go through so many hoops and the yes movement just to get himself over here. Meanwhile, I think you could have taken away everything that Bryan Danielson did as Daniel Bryan. You could have just cut that part of his career, that 10 years out of his career altogether, and just look at what he did at Ring of Honor. Knowing that he was obviously a champion and he had all the accolades and that amazing career in WWE, but the point is, because of his neck injury, the company never wanted to go ahead and have him back in the ring once again, but they were happy to use him in other ways. But then he gets back in, and then more importantly, he comes into AEW, and they have put a lot of great feuds with him overall, and he's had some great matches. Didn't have put the belt on him. And that's one thing I will say, is that for a lot of the stars they bring in, they're not doing what TNA's done in the past, where somebody's going to come in and right away becomes champion. We have exceptions to the rule. Mercedes Moné didn't take much time for her to become, the TBS champion. Fine. But it still comes down to, there is a method to the madness, I guess, for Tony Khan and what he decides to do. And you know what? Some of the booking decisions he chose to go with tonight, I'm good with. I thought he did a pretty good job of booking the night. The surprises they had were really good. The crowd was totally into it. I think the whole night is pay-per-views for AEW. They do rock, man. I rarely am disappointed by any pay-per-views, and that's as a whole, because for the most part, your WWE pay-per-views, even the B-level pay-per-views, with the international crowds, the house show environment, at least those nights, there's something significantly important about those feuds, and because it's based on the storylines that they have, however watered down or thin they might be, at least we got a storyline to work off of, something basic to work off of, and at least we know the match is going to be good, because the matchups are good, for the most part. So I'm never disappointed with all these pay-per-views, but AEW, because of the level of emotionally invested storylines that we have, and listen, other podcasters out there, my fellow podcast wrestling brethren, can talk about, long-term booking. There's a lot of long-term booking that was out of this as well. And maybe you didn't pay attention to a lot of it. That's okay too. I mean, I know I did on some of those matches, but that's all right. No matter what, there's a number of storylines they had in here that were really important. And there was some significance on some of the stars they had that came back tonight and how they were used. So I'll give it all that right there. But breaking down the whole night, starting off with, I did not watch the whole 0 hour, so I missed the first couple of matches. So the 16-man tag team match did not catch at all, but it was the faces over the heels. And kind of is Don Callis now becoming like basically starting to be a little more supportive to his faction being much more face, I guess, and he's just the heel? I'm not sure because Kyle Fletcher was out there. And by the way, Kyle Fletcher now is already put out a challenge via Don Callis to go and take on Ricochet at Dynamite. So Ricochet's first Dynamite match most likely will be against Kyle Fletcher. That'll be great. That'll be really good. So Dynamite Kid, Kip Sabian, Rocky Romero, Kyle Fletcher, Leo Rush, Action Andretti, and Top Flight's Darius and Dante Martin. They beat up on Jay Lethal, Satnam Singh, Anthony Gogo, Arya Davari, Private Party, and the Dark Order. And that was real quick. Willow Nightingale in the mixed tag team match with the Stone Pitbull, Tomohiro Ishii over Chris Statlander and Stokely Hathaway. Kind of figured that. And then there was a 10-man tag team match. Also missed this too. Von Erichs, Sammy Guevara, Kazuya Shibata, and Dustin Rhodes beating the Undisputed Kingdoms, Matt Taven and Mike Bennett, and the Cage of Agonies, Brian Cage, Bishop Khan, and Toa Liona. Missed that too. So I missed all that. I did see Saraya come out and disrupt the audience, only for Jamie Hayter to come back and go after Saraya and Harley Cameron, which was a big deal. And I thought Jamie Hayter might play a part with Britt Baker later in the night with a TBS title match, but that didn't happen. But Saraya and Jamie Hayter, that's good. I like to see that feud get put together, obviously because they had a storyline with that. And I think just the, for Saraya and the Outcasts, the Jamie Hayter storyline was the last thing the Outcasts were really significantly doing. And this is before Ruby Soho, stepped away. So, I mean, right now, Outcasts are where they are. And it's like, I'm waiting to go and see what they do now with Saraya and Jamie Hayter. Now that Jamie Hayter's come back, it's great to see her. It's great to go and see her in a feature feud. Something new to go and break into right now in the women's division. Love that. So, Pac with the Blackpool Combat Club. No Lucha Brothers featured tonight. And I'm wondering if the Lucha Brothers are in fact on the way out and could be looked at by WWE. If that's something that's the case down the line, we'll have to talk about that when we cross that path, if that's going to be the case. But I don't know how that happens. And if WWE is even able to go ahead and acquire both of those talents, I mean, are they going to get to work AAA? I mean, are they going to still get to go and work overseas? That's the thing I got to ask myself. Because, I think it would be very important for them to go and continue to be working as they do. But I don't know what they're going to be doing that yet. But either which way, Pac and Blackpool Combat Club with Claudio Castagnoli and Wheeler Yuta. You had the Patriarchy with Christian Cage, Killswitch, and Nick Wayne. Bang Bang Gang with no Jay White because he's hurt. And House of Black. This was fun. This was really wild. Nick Wayne took a whole lot of damage. So did Juice Robinson. He really did. And it was interesting where the Patriarchy got quite a bit of play tonight on the pay-per-view because Christian Cage playing the jerk prick bastard that he is, and Killswitch being a part of the whole deal, still working along with Christian Cage no matter what. But Patriarchy get the sore end of everything where Pac and Blackpool Combat Club become new trios champions. And I'm wondering, does Pac now become a member of Blackpool Combat Club? That's the part I don't know yet, but this match was very well done. And there's, again, these trio stars, that's 4 great trios teams you got right there that if you want to continue to see those stars continue to go after each other, you can. And you can always put some other teams together and try to pair them up. But that's quite a division for the trios right there working off of at the moment. Then you have Mariah May and Timeless Toni Storm. Man, this match felt longer than 15 minutes. I didn't realize that's what it was, but what a hell of a match. Timeless Toni Storm, and Luther finally comes back out after all that was said and done. We haven't seen him since he got hurt. After Toni Storm got screwed over by Mariah May in the heel turn. Mariah May still out with the heel, the bloody heel, and these two tore it up. I love this match. There was so much emotion in this. And, I mean, you want to talk about getting some real heel heat. Some real heel heat. Mariah May, you slapped your mom. What were you doing? You slapped your mom. And then Timeless Toni Storm comes and comforts her mom. That is wild. I was like, almost ran off the road watching that. What in the world? That was crazy. But let me tell you, Mariah May, what an amazing heel. She will go to any depths to get herself the heat. And she did. And Mariah May gets the win. I'm so surprised by that. But, she's champion. I get it. I mean, Toni Storm, again, they said, 23 title defenses, and she had the belt, 9 months? What a great run. She doesn't need the belt to continue that character, and I hope she does, but they definitely showed that Timeless Toni Storm definitely feels out of sorts now because she couldn't finish off Mariah May. She still has compassion and sympathy for her for whatever reason, but Mariah May still plays up on that and still took her down anyway and done. Mariah May as a champion, that's quite the surprise, and I hope this isn't the end of this feud. I'm enjoying it a lot. Because again, the first match they had. This was the whole deal going on after the Bret Hart, the Bret Hart tournament, and the fact that Mariah May got the title shot in the first place here. But yes, please, let's continue this storyline. Let's continue this. Give them something else. I don't know what you give them. You want to give them lights out? You want to give them something else? Unsanctioned match? We haven't had an unsanctioned match in a long time. I would tell you, that wouldn't be a bad thing to have. I'll tell you that. And I think it could really go to that route. I don't know what they do, but I think they need to get another match out of them. We got to keep the story going. There's just so much there. And two well-fleshed, thought-out characters. I mean, Mariah May and the whole build-up, they did such a good job. And I mean, even the crowd couldn't help, but like they just were in adulation over her anyway. But I still can't get over the fact that she turned heel on Toni Storm because it's like, you like the character and you're still jilted by the fact that she could have done this to her. Like that still gets on my nerves right there about that. So that's a good job of getting me emotionally invested because I was really into the whole storyline. The whole match was great. I loved it. Was a wonderful Women's World Championship match. Hook and Chris Jericho with Big Bill and Brian Keith continuously giving a lot of issues, but I'm glad that Hook gets to be the World Champion once again. Thanks to Taz's help to neutralize Brian Keith and the Taz mission by both of them to go and take things out. Love that. That's great. Let's get Hook on, moving on with something else. And by the way, there was an interesting question being asked about if the FTW title is really taken seriously, but Tony Khan obviously said has been. That he's never looked at it as a joke belt. It's never been anything that he looked like that was just a proper novelty kind of thing. And I like the fact he has kind of treated the FTW title as such. It has been given some dignity. I really do believe it does. And that's why they kept it on Hook in the first place. Put it back on him in the first place. Then you go for the three-way tag team match, AEW World Tag Team titles, Young Bucks, FTR, and the Acclaimed. 12 minutes on this match. And this was also a lot of shit going on too. And, Young Bucks are really much into it and didn't give a whole lot of time for this. I guess they didn't have a lot of time they could really give. But 12 minutes for this match felt they could have always gone longer. We know that. We've seen, but I think when you have the Acclaimed and all this in here, I think just the level of match they have to just have with all their moves going on, there's only so much you could do and only so much story you can really tell. But what happens is the FTR and Acclaimed kind of cancel each other out with the Young Bucks winning on this and pulling off and getting the win. And then that Casino Gauntlet match, that was a surprise. 26 minutes, but let me tell you, what a wonderful run of stars they had in this. They had 12 competitors in the gauntlet. No idea as to who was going to be coming in at what time, but I mean, they basically give us almost, except for two of them, or three of them actually, you really had a run of like a Ring of Honor all-star lineup of some of the best that have either competed from New Japan onto Ring of Honor or the other way around. Because Orange Cassidy, and then you bring out, and actually even this order of who they brought out was really cool. Okada comes out, and him and Cassidy have a number at each other. And Nigel McGuinness has not wrestled. When's the last time? Was it Desmond Wolfe? Was it Desmond Wolfe in TNA? That was the last time I think I remember seeing him wrestle. But, oh my God, he did it. And I'm just checking real quick once again. Yeah. It was 2011 was the last time we saw him. And he was part of Fortune, wasn't it? And he was Desmond Wolfe, and he had London as this valet. I remember all that. And I thought he was going to be great when he came in here and started doing things, but didn't happen. And he was with Fortune, and there was nothing more about it. It's just there was a lot of absence where he was gone. And nothing really came more about the fact that, he was going to be able to come back. He had a lot of issues going on in terms of his own personal health. So it wasn't a chance for him to go and see him out there. So this has been 13 years, roughly. I'm looking right now at the last time he competed. It was a non-televised segment, December 10th, 2010. So yeah, the last time we would have seen him on TV was the first episode of Impact in January 6, 2011. 13 years and 13 and a half years we haven't seen him out there working. And he has just been a television commentator all throughout. By the way, him during the Mariah May Toni Storm match was a delight because he was just egging it on Toni Storm, just ripping her apart, praising Mariah May. What a jerk scumbag of a heel announcer, and gets a kiss from Mariah May in the result, which is also funny. And then they use it as an excuse where he was like so, humana, he had to go to the back. Didn't know he was going to come out and work tonight. But yeah, he looked great. I guess obviously with that much time, he's had some time to get himself into ring shape, but he looked great out there, man. I'm telling you, I did not think we were going to ever see him in the ring again. And the truth is, I never got to see him in Ring of Honor work at all. Because if I remember, yeah, he already gotten hurt by the point of 2009, and I never got a chance to watch him. I never saw him as Ring of Honor World Champion, and he was 545 days in 2009, had a reign as champion. I'm like, and I never got to see him do that. I never got to see him face off against Jerry Lynn or Bryan Danielson or Roddy Strong and all those matches, man. Or Austin Aries, none of it. Or Kevin Steen, I never got to see any of those matches. And I know that he was so important during that whole run over there. And I never got a chance to catch him because it was, that was what they were on HGTV, I think it was. And I didn't get that channel. Like, it was hard to find Ring of Honor. And, until they finally put it over in Sinclair, that's when I finally got to catch it. But I miss Nigel McGuinness because by that point, he'd already moved to TNA. And I knew his work as Desmond Wolfe was pretty good. I liked that. And I knew he was Nigel McGuinness, and I heard about him, and I saw some clips here and there, but not enough to really know much about it. So I missed all that run for him, which is unfortunate. But again, he also dealt with a spine injury, neck issues with the pile driver he was taken during a match. And, there was just so many times I never got a chance to catch him. But I'm glad he's here. I'm glad he's found his way in. He's 48 years old. But he's still going to find his way to go work out there. Like, wow, that's great, man. I can't believe he's going to go out there and we're going to get a chance to go see him out there in the first place. But, is this something we're going to see him do a run? I don't know. But it'd be kind of cool if he did. I don't know if he would be able to do that. But again, he's much older. But he can still perform. I just don't know what he does next. If he just gets to be part of something where we'll get to see another match with him. Like, I'd like to see him do like another retirement match. Get one more shot with Bryan Danielson. Maybe, because that's the thing I'm looking at. Now that Bryan Danielson's AEW champion, does Nigel McGuinness at some point get a chance to go and get a run at Bryan Danielson one more time? Just because they want to be able to have that. Because the last match that Danielson had with McGuinness before Danielson left Ring of Honor was with Nigel McGuinness. So I'd love to go and see that work out as well. And it's been so long in the making to go and see those two come back. 15 years later to go and revisit that match, I'd love to go and see that. I'd love to see that. Doesn't need to be long. Just give them a chance to go and have each other, because obviously they have their odds with each other. It's been a long time feud. Stir that shit back up. Go ahead. Kyle O'Reilly, Zack Sabre Jr., Roderick Strong, Mark Briscoe, a lot of former world champions of Ring of Honor in this right here in the early days that were part of this match. Adam Page coming in here, and him and Jeff Jarrett still have their issues with each other, which is quite amazing to go with that. I know people didn't like the fact that Jeff Jarrett's gotten a little bit more TV time than usual, but I like it, man. I don't care. I have no issue right now with Adam Page and Jeff Jarrett. Let's go ahead and keep them going, Let's get them in the next All Out show coming up now, if that's going to be the case. Ricochet comes in at number 10. And, it looks like he was pretty happy out there. Looks like he feels liberated. Now, we already know that a number of my fellow podcast wrestling brethren have already started to shit on Ricochet. As soon as he comes to the AEW, he's just going to be thrown into the mix, and maybe he will just get thrown into the rotation and he'll just be a part of it. I don't know yet. But Ricochet, from my end of the bargain, it comes down to the fact that Ricochet was left in the mid-card and abandoned there for a long time. I don't like a lot of what they did with him. I never liked him being booked as a Superman, the superhero type. I didn't like him being, paired with Braun Strowman. I just didn't like any of that. He was IC champion. They gave him some accolades, but he had a glass ceiling on him. And yeah, there's some things he can still do in the ring and some things he can still do in general, but I mean, what kind of matches could he do that he can't do in NXT? That's the point. In NXT, they opened the door for more of the high-flying, spot-mucking kind of stuff. Let's just put it like that. Ricochet, now getting to go and work with Will Ospreay. We know that's going to happen somewhere down the line. The match with Kyle Fletcher, that should be awesome. And there's so many stars that Ricochet's going to have a chance to go after. There's a fresh crop of stars you can go out and work with that there will not be a shortage for him to work with on whatever they're going to do. I just wonder if Ricochet is going to be made into a character. Because I think the Prince Puma character, remember, Ricochet was actually booked great in Lucha Underground. He was the world champion there. I love the character that they made for Prince Puma. Man, I don't know, Conan had a big play to be a part in that, but I really like the Prince Puma character. I like what they did with him. And then we heard all the things that Ricochet and Will Ospreay had in their big match, 2016, and all these other things about Ricochet we've heard about forever. But he got his run in the big company, and he's stuck in a lull. There's no movement up. Even with Triple H in play, he might have his look at certain stars and decide to book them more often and more importantly into certain things. But Ricochet is not the case. So if he's not going to be able to move up and become champion, and there are other stars that are going to be looked at maybe in a favoritism route, when you look at Grayson Waller or Austin Theory or Ilya Dragunov or Carmelo Hayes, and where Ricochet really falls into that mix right now, I don't know if the relationship he had with Samantha Irvin, because of the fact that his girlfriend was working there in the company as well, or is it wife now? I'm not sure. If that plays a part either. But what I would like to see for AEW to do with Ricochet is to give him something more than just the matches. Make him something more, because I think that's what AEW likes to do with some of their stars. I think with Will Ospreay, what they did with him with MJF is really giving more depth to the character. Darby Allin obviously has a character and as a storyline of his own. Jack Perry, man, they've gone a certain routes with him so far. Now a scapegoat. It's incredible the way they've gotten with him right now. And there's other stars that kind of fit in that same realm that are not that large, and they just have a thing they can do with them. I'm waiting to see what they decide to go and do in terms of character development for him. He'll have good matches anyway, but can AEW be a place where you can actually go ahead and bolster up and get more of a personality, something more to him? They tried to do that in WWE with that superhero gimmick. It did not work. And they don't need to put him under a mask or anything like that. So let's see what he can do now. What the next level for him comes up in AEW. It's a good place to be for him right now, where I look at it. But then after all that wonderful action with all these stars in there, it's Christian Cage that gets to help a kill switch that gets the AEW World title shot. So guess what? Christian Cage and Bryan Danielson, that's what's going on. But the idea is that it's a title shot that can be cashed in a contract that can be cashed at any time. So they're kind of a Money in the Bank contract is what they're doing right here. And Christian Cage holding on to that any time. I'm curious how they're going to run that. So like I mentioned, MJF, Will Ospreay, they didn't go a full 60 minutes again here, but it was incredible. And Will Ospreay, great crowd response. MJF really pouring it on with the American stuff. And I'm glad he's not going to stay this American title kind of thing and this whole American character. I guess that's going to like go by the wayside now. I don't know if he keeps with that or not. But I think just for this run to All In works. And Will Ospreay, I think, comes out better. This is where MJF, he's gotten the benefit in the last 5 years working in this company where he has gotten the rub. And he is such a star right now. And I really feel like he is at 27 years old, wherever he is now. He has become the star that can make other stars. The fact that Daniel Garcia comes back tonight to avenge on MJF. If we're going to see MJF and Daniel Garcia now, like Daniel Garcia has been like the dancing boy before he stepped away. And that was the whole thing that was brought up when he was with the Jericho Appreciation Society. So now, if we're going to establish Daniel Garcia as that young pillar that we already knew was there, but now it's time to go and build it more. Remember that 4 pillars match that we had? Where it was Darby Allin and Jack Perry and Daniel Garcia with MJF. And let me tell you, what a difference, a year makes or more, because now Daniel Garcia comes into this place and I don't know what they're going to do with him and what direction he goes next. But it was a big response for him coming back to help. And Will Ospreay gets the win, drops the American title. The International Championship is back. Awesome. And Will Ospreay getting a win, and I don't think it hurt at all to see him lose to MJF in that near 60-minute match, come back and get the win on MJF. That's quite a task of booking. And I don't think either one of them got hurt in the process. I think Will Ospreay did take the loss, but man, he comes out of it looking much stronger. I like what Tony Khan did to book him. The Will Ospreay character here has more depth, more character, and he's much more over than he even is just because of his moveset. I really believe that. Mercedes Moné with Camille against Dr. Britt Baker, and this was just a straight-up match. If there was a match that might have been the weakest link of the whole night, it's this one. I just don't know if these two have the best chemistry with each other. And Mercedes Moné, I don't know if just something about whatever her matches were in WWE. You know how they always talk about the fact that those matches, the WWE style, when you are the heel, and then how orchestrated the matches are. I never talk about that much over with Triple H, what he's doing over there now in the company. But I think during the time that Vince McMahon was in control, the whole idea of really scripting down and kind of choreographing your matches, I think Mercedes Moné really benefited from that. And that's what made her matches better with a lot of the stars that she was with. Whether it was Bayley or Charlotte Flair, and whoever. It's like, I feel like there's something about that that's kind of missing here. And that's where, with Mercedes Moné, the character it's not all the way there yet. The addition of Camille is a good move here. It's in progress. I'm not completely sold on Mercedes Moné yet in terms of this new character and how she's tried to build off and evolve herself from the Sasha Banks character in WWE. It just hasn't happened yet. But then again, also seeing Dr. Britt Baker having the match here and just not being able to get the finish here and the win. There could be more that goes with this. But I also think that there's something about all that backstage stuff that really hurt this storyline, really hurt this feud. They could continue this, and I wouldn't be surprised if they do. I just need to see if something can happen more to build this back up, because really there were stops and starts to this feud that just really hurt this storyline altogether. And it was the backstage stuff that really didn't help. But I think with time, I decided to go and continue going forward with Dr. Britt Baker and Mercedes Moné. I think they could correct it. But it didn't work out perfect this time around. I really don't think so. Jack Perry and Darby Allin, and Jack Perry retains the TNT title. And then there's more for the Young Bucks and Jack Perry to go ahead and go attack Darby Allin. They want to put him on fire. And Sting, of all people, makes his way through to save the day for Darby Allin. But I can also see these two continue to go along. And, this whole fire thing's going to continue this storyline, I think. So let's give them an Inferno match or something where fire's involved, if that's going to be the case. Whoever lights their opponent on fire or something like that. I don't know what they're going to do. But we got to get somewhere to a crux with this. And I think Darby Allin and Jack Perry, this also could continue as well. Finally, Bryan Danielson, Swerve Strickland, 26 minutes for this match. Great storyline here. We see Bree and the kids at ringside, and the build up to this right here. I mean, Swerve Strickland, obviously very important how they built him up and what they've done with him in terms of his run as the AEW World Champion. I loved it. I really enjoyed the run they gave him. Believe it or not. And they gave him a long run when it comes down to it. So at this moment, Swerve Strickland right now finishes with 127 days holding the belt. Sure, I mean, you could have done more and had it go longer, but I mean, I feel like there's always going to be room for Swerve Strickland to come back and be a champion again somewhere, sometime. But they set it up here. I think it really, he did the best there could be with him being champion here and having this run as champion, and I liked it. And now Bryan Danielson holds this belt. And how long has he been with the company before he gets to AEW here and becomes the World Heavyweight Champion? I mean, it took quite a while for him to go and get here and get to this point, but they did it, and it's great. September 5th, 2021, so almost 3 years to the day that he returned at All Out. And now we're at the point where Bryan Danielson, 3 years later, he earns the AEW World title. Jim Ross, great commentary on the night. They made a big thing about Swerve Strickland and, does he have the fortitude to be able to go ahead and take out Bryan Danielson? Because even though Swerve Strickland's a champion, that Bryan Danielson and the mystique and the career that he has built for himself, it's more than can be said about what they can do with him so far. That's the whole part that we're talking about. That. And that his 25-year career that goes on now continues to go forward for Bryan Danielson because of the fact that he gets here and he can still go. And he doesn't even have to go, a very long time with this belt either. But I think people want to go and see him get another title shot. And for him, this is a redemption for his character, for himself, because after the injuries and the fact that his neck's all wrecked up, that he didn't want to stop wrestling. He wanted to keep going. And it's wonderful to go and see him now make it to this point, and he's able to go ahead and say, well, he finally did it. He got himself here to this point, and he's champion. A very good night for Blackpool Combat Club. Let me tell you that. They're all champions coming out of the end of All In. Crowd was really hot for everything. That was really awesome. I enjoyed the whole night. It was an A show for me tonight. Really loved it. And did a really great job. We're just going to see now what more storylines they have coming up for us, coming up down the line, and where they go with that route as well. So we'll work on that next. That's the next thing that's got to come up. So next week, there's a slew of pay-per-views they're going to talk about. I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to be able to cover all this, but let's go and go through it real quick. Next week, there's TNA's Emergence. That's coming up on Friday night. Then Saturday night, Bash in Berlin is with WWE, and there'll be a 12:30 p.m. start, or 1 o'clock Eastern time. And then later in the night, NWA 76. Man, there's just so much more that's going on that we got to go and keep an eye on and what they're going to be doing. The 76th anniversary show so far. A lot of matches set up for that. We'll talk about that next week on the program on Wednesday. And NXT will have No Mercy, which will also be out there. Well, actually, that'll be in Denver. Excuse me. And that will be next Sunday. There's a whole lot they're going through, man. It's just wild. Crazy. So that's going to be it. Anyway, thanks for listening to this another Wrestling Goes Through podcast. Come back this Wednesday because wrestling needs us.